So welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence third Thursday call. I'm Noelle Marshall and I'm here with my beloved.
Hi everyone, I'm Bob Warner.
My light partner. And we are so excited to have Tracie J back, The Quiet Rebel Life. And we have, that's a couple months ago, Tracie, that you were here. We had delightful. Yeah.
Don't make me lie to the people, Noelle. I can't remember what I did yesterday.
In a time warp.
Lying aloud.
I have slept since then. I have no idea.
Oh boy. And she's going to introduce us to her friend Laura Conley. Did I pronounce your last name correctly? Conley? Okay. And we're going to talk about walking, which is something that Bob and I have been doing, since the this COVID thing hit. We said we got to hit the bricks, and we got out almost every day through the winter, whatever, up to 4 miles. Now that may not seem a lot to a lot of people, but we hadn't been walking, so we were pretty proud of ourselves. We did one of these, and we're still doing that. So I'm going to, before we begin and let Tracie do more of an introduction and talk with Laura, I want to play a short video to tell folks about what the Co-Creators Convergence is, because by the name, people are going, what is that about? So hold on here. Let me do a little screen share. So welcome back. And I'm going to turn it over to my dear light partner, Bob, and he's going to do a short centering for us as we begin this hour. And I want to remind people on Facebook, you can still join us, even if you can't get into the Zoom room. If you put comments in the chat, we will be checking there. So over to you, Bob.
Thank you, and welcome, Laura, and welcome back, Tracie. My goodness, we've had a busy day. I am going to make assumption other people had other things going on in their life today besides this present moment that we're sitting in right now. So I invite all of us, Facebook, here in the Zoom room, and those of you that are watching this as a recording in the archives at some other time that will be exactly the present moment for you, to take a deep breath with me. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in the love that's in our hearts, and breathe out and away from us all that's taken place today. Any challenges, any distractions, any conflicts. Take a deep breath and realize that all of eternity is in this single moment that we're in right now. Our time together in the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday night conversations, our annual gathering, is about being in circle with those who wish to be in the present moment together. And we are here tonight to enjoy this time in the circle, to learn from one another, to share, to talk, to exchange, to laugh, and to learn how we might be at peace even more than we are in our normal walk through life. So let's take one more cleansing breath, recognizing that this is the moment that we were destined for. Everything in our life has prepared us for this exact moment to be with this exact company in this exact circle. And so it is. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. I don't know about anybody else, but I needed that. So I want to welcome back Tracie J, Quiet Rebel Life. And Tracie was with us some time ago. And what we do at the Co-Creators Convergence is we hold a conversation every Thursday night. And instead of just having a guest pop in, do their thing and kind of disappear, we think, oh, wait a second, that's a very interesting guest. I'm guessing they know some very interesting people too. And so we invite people to pay it forward and invite somebody they think would be an awesome guest here. So Tracie, thank you for fulfilling your not promise to us, but your gift to us. I would like to turn this over to you, and you may introduce your guest. And all over to you, and we're going to be here for you.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm so glad to be back. This was such a sweet and gracious space when I was here before, and so I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to have my friend Laura with me. Hey, Laura.
Hey.
So Laura and I met right before the world shut down and right before it crashed open. And we got to be fast friends. I guess it doesn't hurt that we share a birthday. And so we already had so many things in common. But there is this moment where a thing just clicks, where you just know that a person is supposed to be part of your life. And I can't tell you when that moment was, but I know that it happened. And I am happy to know this woman. She helps balance out my Sunday mornings. And you'll probably know more about that as we go, but just know that she helps balance out my Sunday mornings. She shares her family and her food and her washer and dryer with me. We collaborate on a project together. We also just are actively sounding boards and listening ears for one another. And so when I was asked to invite someone to share their story and their gifts, I could not think of a better person to come and share their story and their gifts, because Laura is full of both. And so I want to introduce to you, or maybe reintroduce to some of you, my friend, the walking wellness coach, the founder of Urban Paths, Ms. Laura Conley.
Hello, thank you, Tracie, so much. The feeling is so mutual. The very best thing that came out of 2020 was meeting you, like you said, right before things shut down and then opened up in many ways for me, and I know for you as well. We learned so much in this year. So I'm excited tonight to talk about walking, my story with walking, what I do with walking, and what all of you can do to enhance your wellness and your physical, mental, emotional health, how you can connect more with yourself on a walk, how you can connect with other people, and then maybe most importantly, many times, is how you can connect with your community. And so I want to just jump right in. So I'm a walking wellness coach, and what is that? What does it all mean? And so I'll try to explain some of that. And because we're not walking, it's very difficult for me to ever kind of talk when I'm stable and without movement. So the next best thing I thought tonight, since I can't be out walking with you all or even telewalking with you all, is to try to show movement in some of the photos of when I'm out walking. So again, my company is called Urban Paths, and I'm based in Houston, Texas. This is a picture of me with the skyline in the background, and you can see I'm walking along what is Buffalo Bayou, our river, main bayou here in Houston, that's right here in my neighborhood. So I want to go ahead and tell you a little bit more about what is this walking wellness coach? What does that all mean? So it started, it's a little blurry, but it's a very old photo because I'm old. And this is me in my red walking boots. I was born and grew up in the Midwest, first in a small farming community in north central Iowa. And when I was just a little older than this, at 3.5, we moved to the big city of Rockford, Illinois, which is outside of Chicago. And I'm the youngest of 9 children, which is a small important detail, but I'm also the first one in my family to ever go to daycare, or back in those days, they called it nursery school. So I was shy and used to only being with my family. And my mom got a job. She was a teacher, and she would drop me off at this daycare. It ironically was called Happy Hour, and which was really not a happy hour at all, or a happy day for me. But I would lie on the rug near the door and cry. I didn't want to be away from my family. I was miserable. I was shy. And pretty much every day, this was the routine. And one day, one of my classmates came in, and she had the very powerful name of Jolene, and she had go-go boots on. So it was happy hour. It was the 60s. And she came in with these go-go boots, and she was maybe 4. She was older, and she was my very first kind of life coach. And she came in, and everyone gathered around her, all of us children. And she said, I'm going to teach you the new song. These boots are made for walking, right? And so we're just like, and it was a top 10 hit of the time. And she just belted out, these boots are made for walking. I can't sing, but I picked up that song and I was like, wow, she like really owned the room. She felt empowered. She wasn't scared. She wasn't worried about whether her mom was going to come pick her up. And it was my very first life coach in a way. And I went home that day and I sang the song for my siblings, and they clapped. And my mom was a little bit horrified because it's kind of a racy song for the time. But it kind of has run as a backdrop in my life. And walking, from that song, These Boots Are Made for Walking, also, even as a young child, I would go out walking my neighborhood. If there wasn't anything to do, my friends and I would just walk around the block looking for something interesting, curious about our surroundings, looking for fun, looking for playmates. So that's where it all started. It started with Nancy Sinatra and These Boots Are Made for Walking, oddly enough. So now I find trails like this, paths like this to walk upon. And it's like I said, walking has kind of run a thread through my life. And just about 20 years ago now, I found myself again crying on the floor, not feeling in control, feeling like my life had gotten away from me. My marriage was ending, and I had a newborn child. So I remember laying on that rug, and this time with a baby monitor in my hand, and I was just like, oh, to the universe, to God, what do I do? How do I move forward? And I just felt the strongest presence and voice that said, go out the door, go for a walk, put your baby in the stroller, and just take a walk. And that simple act of getting outdoors, getting in nature, moving my body, taking a moment to center myself, ground myself, literally, I was able to process through the things that were going on in my life, kind of like the dark night of my soul. And that shortly after that, I started working with a therapist, and all these kind of coincidences come together, when you look in the rearview mirror and you think, how did this all happen? And she was without an office at the time, but she said, if you'd like, we can meet at the park. And there's a 3-mile loop, which is takes about an hour to walk. And so I put my son in the stroller again and met the therapist at the park, and we walked and talked, and I processed. And again, walking really, really helped me. So that kind of like planted the seed in the back of my mind. So I'm going to leave it on this flower picture for a minute. And like time went by, my son got older, and then he was in preschool, a wonderful preschool. But I thought, what do I want to do with my life? What have I learned as I became healthier? I realized that nutrition also played a really important part in me getting healthier, and both mentally and physically. And so I studied to become a nutrition coach. And I was thinking, but I love to walk. I love to be outside. So instead of meeting my clients in an office, we'll do like I did with my therapist those many years before that. I'll meet my clients at the park, and we'll walk and talk about nutrition, which is what I thought would be the kind of the crux of it. And on the very first walk with my very first client, I realized about 10 steps in that he knew kind of what he should be eating. But he was just so stressed out. He didn't necessarily need therapy, but he wanted someone to be able to process with, to talk with. And there's something that happens when we're in movement, and science and evidence-based, kind of plays it out, but we can just share very deeply. And as we walked, he relaxed, he started talking about work stress, and week by week, he became healthier. Because he was able to have someone to process with. So my practice kind of grew from there, and I walked one-on-one, and I also led group walks. And so when I go out, when I'm either walking with an individual or a group, I try to help people see things along the walk. So it might be a flower, it might be a beautiful path, it might be a beautiful mural like this one that actually Tracie and I saw here in Houston, to go along, because there's something, the curiosity of seeing the beauty around us allows us to relax on those walks as well. So it's one thing to be able to process with someone, and then it's another thing to get curious and allow our brains to have a break. When we see things that give us wonder, like a flower or a squirrel or a beautiful tree, it allows our brains just to slow down for a moment. It's I think for me, what mindfulness is all about, is paying attention. And when we're outdoors, there's an ever-present amount of things that we can look at and get that awestruckness. Whether it's a beautiful mural or a beautiful trash can, or a beautiful edge, like check out these bowling balls. I mean, anyone ever seen a flower bed edge with bowling balls? I have. And the more I walk with clients, and the more I walk with groups, and the more I just go walk myself, the more of these really interesting things I see. It might be a beautiful piece of architecture, like this, one of my very favorite houses in all of Houston, partly because of the color. Or it could be the way that a plant makes a shadow on the ground. And another way that I coach my clients, and this is something that I share with people I walk with, sometimes if our brains are just really buzzing with stress or anxiety, we can go out on a walk, and to get ourselves to be right, I like to say right where our feet are, we can go on like a scavenger hunt. So this particular scavenger hunt is a scavenger hunt looking for the kind of this turquoise blue color. So I saw all these things in a 3-mile walk around my neighborhood, but it helps you to focus in and to really get present when you have a tangible thing that you're looking for. Or numbers, to find 1 through 10 all on, addresses or telephone poles or construction sites as you're walking along. Whatever it is to keep you where your feet are. So walking yourself or walking alone is a really powerful thing. And then walking with a friend, like one-on-one, as I do with my clients. But then there's power in walking with a group, which is something else that I'm so fortunate to be able to do here. And hopefully wherever you're listening from, if you're not involved already, and I hope when we can talk more, you'll tell me the types of groups that you might have in your community. If you're not already involved, that you'll seek one out, because there's power in group. When you can literally walk with people from all walks of life and learn from them, you gain that perspective. And a lot on a walk, it's very non-threatening. So we're able to share. And if a conversation might get too heated, or you can say, "Oh, look at the tree," and take a break from the conversation. But it allows us to meet people that are different than us. This is a group a collaboration with a group called Girl Trek here in Houston. And sometimes the groups are large, sometimes the groups, like I said, are one-on-one, and sometimes groups are smaller, but this happens to be a group that we've had since the world opened back up here in Houston. Through wooded areas like this, you wouldn't believe this, but this was less than 2 miles from downtown in a nearby industrial area. You can see the bridge we're walking under, the overpass there. And now at this point, I really want to dig into this. And Tracie, if you can unmute, and you still there?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, I'm here.
You're here? Okay. I want to talk about this because people say, like, what I think is my natural gift. And I think that I'm really grateful to have discovered that at this time in my life, midlife, to find the thing that I love to do and where I can help others in the world. And also I think that I'm just suited for it. I'm able to keep confidences. I'm a good listener. And I like to be outside. All of these things come together. But people have asked me, well, what if I can't walk with you? I want to walk with my best friend, or I want to walk, but my best friend and I always talk on the phone, or I talk with my sister on the phone, but it's not the same. I don't feel like I'm able to process. I put together this list of kind of guidelines to help people to develop, because I think I was born maybe by, being in a big family, that I thrive on story, and I also thrive on being able to keep confidences and to not be judgmental, and to just really provide a safe space for people to process and share. And I think we can learn to do that too, especially if we tell the person that we're sharing with that we kind of have some ground rules, and that we'll do that for them if they also will do that for us. And so I would like to just talk through these ground rules of how to have a telewalk. This could either be over the phone, where you're walking and you have your earbuds in, or you're just walking with your phone in front of you. Like my sister just likes to put it on speaker and she walks with her friend that way, or whether you're walking together. And Esther Perel, who's a marriage and family therapist, says that it's a great thing to do also in a relationship with your significant other, because when you want to have a difficult conversation, or any kind of conversation, because sometimes when we get eyeball to eyeball, it becomes like a confrontation. But when we're walking side by side, we feel more like we're on a team, and we can talk through difficult things. And I don't know if you've ever had that experience, sometimes in the car with our significant other or with our children, it's much easier to talk through things. So walking allows us to do that if we have the ground rules down, where the person is not going to jump in and try to fix it or judge us. So I'd love to talk through these things that will help you to kind of create that space that I've tried to create for my clients. Okay, Tracie, you with me?
I'm here.
All right. So Tracie and I walk together, and we do this for each other. So Tracie alluded to in the introduction that we walk on Sunday mornings, and we've started to call it our walking church, because it's uplifting in all the best ways that church can be. Sometimes we sing, right?
Yes.
Sometimes there's altar calls. Sometimes there's very powerful moments, and all the things. What else do you think, Tracie? What makes it church for you?
Oh, it is, as you said, all the things. There is testimony.
Yes.
There's devotional, there's singing, there's offerings, there's charity, there's always love and listening, there's nurturing, there's all the things that make church church.
right, community, you know, the very best thing. So,
But it's a very exclusive church. I just want people to know that it is limited capacity,
a small congregation, but
small congregation.
we're trying. But you too can create your walking church. So first of all, there's time. So if you want to walk with a friend, like I think setting the time in advance, like, is it going to be an hour? Tracie and I sometimes will walk for 4 hours. I don't know. The longest we've ever walked together, maybe 8-10 miles, something like that. We'll just walk.
Like
and walk
12, I think.
12 miles. Church gets long. It's like a long service, and we just keep going and keep going. But like knowing in advance how much time you're gonna be able to spend together, and then place. Tracie and I and my clients and I, we walk all over Houston, of course, predetermined a little bit in advance where we're going to go. Sometimes we just follow our feet, and Tracie and I often end up walking to water. So one of the bayous or one of the small lakes or ponds in Houston. But picking a familiar place is a great way to start so that you can really focus on your conversation with your partner. So in a safe place, so you don't have to worry about cars. So whether that's at a park or a walking trail, something like that, because you don't want to have to break the conversation to worry about traffic, and you can really focus on each other then. A major thing that you want to do when you're walking with someone is it's not about fixing. It's a time to just hold space and listen. I remember years ago, someone talked about hold space, and I didn't really understand what that meant until I started doing this work. And now I know you're just there to hold space and to deeply listen. If it's something about advice, like should I wear the purple or the blue dress or something like that's different. This is a time to just listen. And even if the person that you're walking with, your friend says, I want you to give me advice, say, that's not during this walk. I'm here to listen and help you find the answer on your own. What's feeling good for you? And then next, confidentiality, of course. You know, we say like what you say on the trail, stays on the trail. You know, it feels really good. It feels really good to be trusted. You know, it feels good to be able to trust, but it really feels good to be trusted. And, you know, there's just no time for gossiping. You know, sometimes we get in these we can get in gossip sessions with friends. And in the moment, it's kind of like eating candy. In the moment, it might be like fun, but just a few minutes later, you're going to feel really sick to your stomach. It does not feel good. So get that feeling of what it feels like to be trusted and to be able to trust someone else on a walk. The next thing that I talk about is trail amnesia. So say you go for a walk with your friend, and this is a classic one often, and they're really griping about their partner. Like, oh, he does this, she does this. I can't believe it. I can't stand them. Oh, and they just talk through all that stuff. And then the next week, if you plan to walk weekly, you get together again. They might not bring it up, but it's also not your place to say, well, what about Jim? You know, do you still hate him or not? You know, like sometimes we just want to vent. We don't really hate Jim. We just in the moment are feeling frustrated, and we want to talk that out without feeling like you're going to circle back and ask us about that on the next walk. So trail amnesia, really important. And then I call them here statements. Like instead of when someone says, I'm in this really difficult situation, I'm really worried about my brother, he's really sick. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, you know, oh, that's so terrible, you know, you poor thing, that's so awful, with over sympathizing, if you can just say, I hear you, I'm listening. Because when I was going through my rough time when my marriage ended, I didn't want to talk to people because I was so afraid of that pity. I didn't want people to you know, be falling all over themselves, telling me how sorry they were. I just wanted people to listen to me. So using here statements, I hear you, I'm here for you. It's much more empowering than than that over sympathy. And then finally, no judgment. You know, when we judge or we say, oh, that doesn't seem that bad, or that was an awful thing that happened, or there'll be a silver lining to that, those types of things. It's not helpful. The problem, the stress, sharing it is where your friend or your walking buddy is going to be able to get rid of their stress, not by your judgment. So those are kind of like the things that I put together. That I'm sure there's more that you could add. And if you have one, throw it in the chat box, something that you found helpful when you're trying to deeply listen to a friend, be there for someone, or what you want someone to do when you want to share it with them. The thing about this is putting it all together on a walk is super powerful. Try it. I mean, try it for a 15 or 30-minute walk if you've never done this before. And I'll make these guidelines available, because it's convenient if you can just say, well, let's agree to these guidelines in advance, so that you both know what you're getting into. Yeah? Yeah. So the light at the end of the tunnel. So you can focus like the trash in this photo, or you can just look to the light on the other side. And that's what I hope that you'll do when you're out on walks, when you're talking with friends. Get out in nature and focus on the light at the end of the tunnel. Whether it's on a beautiful trail like this is in the Houston Arboretum here, lovely space, surrounded on two sides by one of the biggest interstate systems, I think, in the country. So off in the distance, you can actually hear the traffic, but when you're in the middle of this forested area, it's peaceful and serene. Again, it could be with a big group like this fun group that I was able to walk with, or it could be with a friend like my friend Tracie here. Whatever it is, if you get out in nature and go walk yourself, you're going to feel better. I guarantee it. You know, I could go on and on about the benefits for your physical health, like from everyone from, the American Pediatrics Association to AARP, it's good for diabetes prevention and for your heart and your blood pressure and everything in between. There's no doubt about it. If you Google it, there's like 20 gazillion hits of the benefits of walking and being in nature. But the very best thing that I found is how we can connect to ourselves on a walk, connect to another person, and connect to our community and really get to know it, and how that then transfers into our mental and our emotional health. I mean, I think if we start there, all the other things, whether it helps with our weight management or keep our blood pressure in check, help us with our blood sugar after a meal. If we walk, our food is much better absorbed. All of those things are kind of like really great byproducts. For me, I think, especially in this time, the effects that it has on our mental and emotional health are the most beneficial and most powerful. So I want to stop and open it up and check the chat box. If you have questions about the benefits of walking, if you're a walker, if you'll kind of put that in the chat box, but just, any general questions about walking. Let's see if I can get I unshared. Ooh, I feel powerful. Yay. I shared, unshared.
You did a great job. What are you talking about? That was awesome.
Technology is here. Yeah, I'm a good walker. I can walk for a long ways, but technology is not my thing.
I'm just going to say that I remember like in the 1980s or something, or 70s, late 70s or something, I went to Germany and I learned about Volksmarches.
Yeah.
And my friend lived there and she says, you want to, go on the Volksmarch with me? I said, what, what's that? It kind of sounds like a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
But so we did, we went on it's very big in Germany. So you go on these walks, and then at the end, you collect a little badge for these walks that you take. And, it's just glorious. I don't know if they do Volksmarches here in the States. Have you ever heard of that here?
I'm sure there are groups. I'm very sure there are groups. I don't know of one here in Houston, especially, but you know, there's walking clubs and walking challenges, things like that. But walking in Europe is a much more, it's a bigger part of their life, and it's much more walkable, frankly. Like here in Houston, particularly, the walkability is getting better, but you know, cars have been king for a long time. And so I think cities are realizing that, especially the younger generation, really want the walkability. They want to be able to cycle and be able to walk and have places to walk to, you know, have grocery stores in their neighborhoods and those things. So I'm hopeful.
You know, I posted about this, going to be on Facebook. I'm sorry for the puppy.
That's so sweet. Puppy wants to walk too.
Well, I tried taking her out just for a quick one. And she said, that's not enough. You've been on that computer too long today, lady.
Yeah.
But one person said, well, I'm sitting in here in my wheelchair, you know, crying because I can't do that. And there was a part of me that wanted to respond, you do so many other great things I can't do. Yeah, but I didn't feel that was compassionate response. I just gave her a care symbol. But yeah, do you know, what about what can we do with our quote non-walkers? I mean, she's a young woman with a very debilitating joint disease. Have you ever had to deal with that?
Yeah, yes. And I'll say that for someone to roll in nature as well, like the benefits of being in nature, if they're able to get out with and roll on a trail, it's the connection with nature that's really helpful. And if they're not able to get outside and get on trails, the more connected we can get with nature, the better. So if it's sitting, being in front of a window, looking at the world outside, and then if you can't do that, then watching nature videos. Like the more connected we can get with nature, the better. But certainly, you know, if they can get out and roll on a trail, it doesn't need to be far, but just getting in touch with a tree or a blade of grass, it's very beneficial. And it doesn't have to be the distances that Tracie and I walk or that I walk daily. It can be really as short as 5 minutes. I've had clients who are not in wheelchairs, but who have limited mobility. And so for them, it might be a 5-minute walk. It might be, you know, to the mailbox and back. And, you know, some people build from there. For some people, that is enough. Even, you know, the recommendations from the different health advisory committees have been the goal to get the optimal health benefits are about 200 minutes a week, but that broken up throughout the week in 10 or 15-minute walks. It can be 5 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. It doesn't have to be all at once, and it's not a speed thing, you know, it's just a moving your body, connecting with nature. In the beginning of the pandemic, when for some communities, people were literally in their house, it was about walking around inside. So I have a 12-year-old son. And so for us, we would like do window checks, you know, like walk around the house, look out the window, walk to the next, go up the stairs, come back down. It's really important to move our bodies, but it's also important to stay connected with nature.
That's awesome. I think Bob wants to jump in here.
Yeah, I appreciate that that connection with nature. It's one of the notes that I made. Well, of course, Noelle and I identify with some of your photos and everything. We were down there in the winter quite often over the last 6 or 7 years, and we were there for the Women's March, which we wore down through Buffalo Bayou and whatnot downtown. But that connection to nature, Noelle mentioned earlier that we started last winter after we bought a home in Tennessee. We started last November or December walking each day. And as usual, she started, insulted and embarrassed me by doing it herself for 2 or 3 days. And I said, okay, I'll go. And then we've been together ever since in doing so. And we were walking 4 miles round trip literally every day. I mean, for months and months and months, we did this 4 miles round trip. And in the wintertime, there were only 1 or 2 times when it was just unbearable to do it. But it was mud, it was rain, it was snow, it was everything. And the thing that struck me so, because of your comment about nature, was how little, while we've been blessed to travel the country and see a lot of nature and a lot of different landscapes and naturescapes, that walking this exact same path through 3 distinct seasons in Tennessee, and just watching, what we could see up through the woods on the hillsides and whatnot, that little by little, day by day, week by week, month by month, we couldn't see anymore because it turned light green, it turned very bright green, it turned dark green, it turned completely covered. And it's along the edge, it's very flat, and it's along the edge of a lake. So the opportunity to see things that we just haven't had taken time to see and be observant about. And the other, when you talked about the conversation and what conversations can take place, we found ourselves early on, except for the rainy days when we couldn't hear it, we would listen to things on podcasts, or we would listen to news, we'd listen to Right, Left, Center, we would listen to Democracy Now, we'd listen to different things. And oftentimes it was not politics or news or analysis, but also podcasts of spiritual and inspirational. And lately until the puppy showed up, we were listening to a whole series of books called Joseph Communications on audiobook. And it really gave us time to both be hearing the same thing. So we were both listening to something else, not each other. And then it gave us opportunity to have conversations about that. So we wouldn't fill the whole walk with a chapter. We would listen to a chapter and we still had 3 miles to go to be able to chat about it. So I just really appreciate the creativity that you have in the way you work with people to have these different opportunities, really.
Well, and I think that listening to podcasts or listening to music, doing those things is one type of walk. And I think that, what kind of the research says is make time also to not be plugged into that, to connect with what's around you and to look up close. And I've heard from my clients, and I know I feel this myself, the more I see, right? Whether it's wildlife in a very urban setting, I've seen coyote, an eagle. I was with Tracie when I saw the eagle for the first time, and I let out a bunch of expletives because I was so like, wow, it was like 4 feet over my head. Am I right, Tracie? It was freaking amazing. But
it almost landed in your hair.
It almost, yes, it was a sign. But as a child, like we just didn't see eagles, right? I mean, because of DDT and things, they so the more you see, and if we're too plugged in, I listen to podcasts sometimes too, but we can miss things. So like to really look, and the more like I said, the more you see, the more you'll see. Like a butterfly and a caterpillar, a small, tiny little creature that you might have walked by. And I think our busy minds need that break. I mean, I know that we do. There's research around this where when you see something, you go, wow, or that's beautiful. You get like a little hit of dopamine. The whole Rocky Mountain High thing is true. Whenever I've led a group walk, I've never seen or heard anyone at the end of the walk who's like more pissed off than when they started. Like you end, like you get a little bit high. You get these endorphins and dopamine as you're seeing things. The movement is helpful too, but when we see things that are beautiful, and you can only see things like that on a walk. If you're driving in a car, we miss so many things, and we might just think, oh, my city's ugly. But when you're out walking, like that photo I showed of the garbage can, like it's like, wow, like who thought to paint the garbage can? That makes me smile. And
did it get kicked out?
You'll hit dopamine.
I think there's also this for us. Well, no, for me. What I can do with distractions and how it's manifest is this little full-spirited puppy that we have now. And that I got used to that 4 miles of 2 adults walking, and then whatever was going on and connection with more of connection with nature than ever before. And then this came along. And first off, we didn't walk for a couple of weeks. Then we went, well, our legs are only this big and we're walking 4 miles. Ain't no way. She went 2 miles round trip the first day, and we were up to 3 miles round trip the second day. But the distraction of having to deal with her wanting to jump up and nip at us and gnaw on our shoelaces and those sort of things, for a while I had an attitude of, damn it, I was really enjoying really connecting with nature before this puppy came along. And I have Noelle can't walk her because her arms aren't long enough to hold the leash out away when she goes to nip at my knees. And so I've had her the whole time. So I've started to adapt to that. We're still getting our exercise. We're still getting out in nature. And I'm learning from I realize all that's about me. And how do I adapt to this, what I'm calling a distraction right down here, that I can marvel in how the dog reacts to 2 or 3 grasshoppers jumping in front of us.
Right.
But the dog reacts and how my reaction is and how my joy is about that in a different way than I might have seen a grasshopper 4 months ago. And what is the dog, of course, is curious about everything, and she races until she's curious about something, then she dead stops, and then she's curious about that. Sometimes it's smell, sometimes it's motion, sometimes I don't know what's going on in her little brain. But that curiosity and living in the moment has an opportunity for me, let her to be my teacher in that, in the walk as well. So it's this adaptation is a new lesson for me.
She's helped you switch your perspective.
Yeah.
You're like, you're seeing things differently.
The other thing I put in the chat about walking for purpose, and the second annual Black Sunday, SON Sunday, is August 8th, and it's about walking for to bring awareness to and change in gun violence, particularly about Black for mothers and fathers of Black sons that aren't on the planet anymore because of that. And it was very interesting, because first Black Sunday was like you talked about, being at your computer and not getting out in nature and not walking and then getting back out again. Black Sunday last year was like this 12-hour broadcast online, and it was amazing. And there were people indigenous from Australia. There were broadcasts and presentations and discussions from all over the world. Michael Brown, who was killed in Ferguson's mother, was on the call. This year, it was adopted and said, that's too long to sit in front of a computer. So it's actually 4 hours in the morning where anyone individually or in groups go for a walk, if you like, in memory of or in thoughtfulness of a young Black man's life being lost, or Black son. And so it's been organized in a way that you can actually download wristbands, put a name of someone on it, and you can just go for your walk that day by yourself, or walk around your yard, or make that 4-mile walk we made, or organize with other people and go for a walk. And perhaps the conversation that day has that purpose in having an opportunity to talk about that subject, listen and talk about that subject. Maybe it becomes some civic action as well. So we feel very strongly about like I mentioned, the Women's March, and being another way to use walking to make a statement, as well as to carry your heart into that.
Absolutely. I mean, walking has long been a thing that we can do in solidarity. And I think that in those organized movements and walks like that, absolutely powerful. And also, I like to call it walktivism, but I think when we walk in our communities and get to know our neighbors and get perspective of others, it's much easier to go in neighborhoods other than your own and gain that perspective of other people and gain stories from others. than it is to stay secluded in our own neighborhoods. Tracie and I do something together called Walking with Humans, where we've combined kind of the things that both of us do in our passions, our mission, our work together, where we lead curated conversation walks through an area in Houston with museums. Tracie, you want to speak
Yeah.
Cool.
collaboration?
Yeah.
Walkism?
Yeah, so it's an opportunity for people to get to know themselves a little better, get to know the neighbors that we're walking with, and also to take in some very cool art and have a conversation about it. And so we've pressed pause temporarily until it cools off a little bit because it's Houston and it's very hot.
Oh,
But when the weather cools off again, we'll be back at it, offering those walks. I also wanted to circle back to the comments about listening to podcasts while you walk. So in my work and in my life, right now I'm taking in a lot of very heavy material, and things that I don't want to have stuck in my body. So I will often listen to those things while I walk, because it helps to move that energy around.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think we have another march coming up. Go ahead, Bonnie, if you'd
No,
like to jump in here.
go ahead, Noelle. I'll say something afterwards.
I was just going to say, I think we're going up to Washington DC, August 28th for a, what is that one for, dear?
Well, it's the anniversary of Martin Luther
Luther
King's I Have a Dream speech on the Lincoln Memorial Steps.
And so we're
We were
doing
there last year.
a march there. Also, I don't know if you've ever heard of Unity Churches. Big one, the Pyramid in Houston. But they used to do a 9/11 Unity Walk in Washington, DC. And they would walk up Massachusetts Avenue. And it was like so many different belief systems. And so if you went by the Sikh temple, they invited you in and taught you how to do a turban. If you went to, by the synagogue, we started the synagogue, we ended at a mosque. We went by the Vatican, what was that? The
Vatican Embassy.
Embassy. Some nuns were out there and gave us some cookies. So that was my favorite place. But it was kind of,
Yes.
Walk it off.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, but so it was kind of cool, this walking for purpose. And of course, everything that you said, that was a very beautiful presentation,
Yeah,
Laura.
very,
Let me
very.
tell you that. If you just threw that together, I mean, wow, I really enjoyed that.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, I don't like to sit still. I love to share. One of my favorite mediums is Instagram, because one of the things that my creative process that I've found is taking pictures with my phone. And it helps me sometimes to key in on things when I'm walking. So taking pictures also to show people what's out there, that they don't have to travel to Yosemite or Yellowstone. Not that those places aren't beautiful, and I love to hike and walk there, but even within our urban centers, we can walk and see beautiful things if we open our eyes to that. So I try to show that in my photos. And so I'm glad that was helpful.
Very-
I
Jump in, Bonnie.
Okay. I wanted to mention, Laura, I thank you for your talk. I agree with you very much. I love nature walks. And I'm always like being aware as I take a step that Gaia's moving as I'm moving. It's just a beautiful feel. But there's one walk that was always the most incredible walk that I ever had in my life. Are you at all familiar with the Peace Pilgrim?
Oh, yeah.
This goes back to like the late 1950s, early 1960s. And this lovely, lovely older lady walked across the United States in the name of peace.
Mm.
And she was called the Peace Pilgrim. And we had her here in Colorado, and they told people if they met met her at the basically it was kind of the foothill of the mountain, and a group of people were going to walk down with her to Golden, and I was just a tiny little child at the time, and I'm wanting to walk with her. And so my mom takes me up there, and oh, maybe there's about 40 people or so at the crack of dawn. And she's, coming down the mountain. And my mom approaches her, and my mom's not really wanting to walk down the mountain. She wants to meet us down in Golden, with the car.
Mhm.
And so the Peace Pilgrim agrees to let me walk with her right by her side, like I'm her daughter. Exactly. And so my mom drives off, and the group of us start walking. Of course, I'm walking right next to her. And like I said, I don't remember if I'm like 4 or 6, but I'm really just a little child.
Mhm.
And I'm walking with her, and she starts explaining to me that for walking distances, she actually has a special walk. And she teaches me this walk that kind of, I don't know if they have a video of her doing it out there, but it is really a lot in the hips, and very, very focused. I mean, now that I know qigong, I realize that it had kind of a qi awareness, but it was very, very focused on how the hips move and the swing of the arms, and it became kind of a meditation, which I was already doing at that age, and kind of a mantra walk.
Mhm.
And it took me into like another plane, another space. So, kind of like being aware of a nature's walk, this was being aware of another level walk
Mhm.
as we walked into Golden. And it was just absolutely incredible. And to this day, even if I'm walking in the city or something, if I've got like a good half a block or block to do, I will, say hello to the Peace Pilgrim and do that special walk to get me from one place to another. And it feels so wonderful and so peaceful.
That's beautiful that made such an impact on you at that age. And certainly meditation walks like walking labyrinths, which is something that Tracie is quite familiar with and has led, but purposefully moving our bodies and isolating those movements is very, very centering and good for all parts of our health, right? So that's amazing, Bonnie, that you had that experience at that young age.
Mm.
That walk really helped me. Like when I was in my teens, we didn't have a car, and I could walk for miles in Los Angeles. It definitely is another level of walk that you're just not using that same kind of energy.
Right.
If you ever get a chance to see a video of her doing it, I recommend learning it.
I will look for that this evening. Thank you.
I'm gonna just say that I cheated and Googled her. There is a book about the Peace Pilgrim. Her name was Mildred Lissette Norman, was an American spiritual teacher, mystic, pacifist, vegetarian activist, and peace activist. In 1952, here I was born, she became the first woman to walk the entire length of the Appalachian Trail in one season.
Wow.
So there's a book
Yeah.
about her.
Just a few years ago, not very many, I was still in touch with her neighbors, and they were still keeping up a foundation where you can get the book and information about her and all that kind of jazz. So I'm assuming they may be still doing it to this day.
Yeah, I think it's
Um,
called just peacepilgrim.org, Bonnie.
yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
So, Laura, thank you, Bonnie. Laura, what has been, and Tracie, what has been your experience with meditation walks and with groups? One year at the Co-Creators Convergence in Sunrise Ranch in Colorado, it wasn't a planned activity, but somebody said, hey, I'm getting up tomorrow morning, I'm going to go for a meditation walk, you want to go? And a bunch of us went. And so he let us on just kind of connecting with, just walk for a while and do nothing but focus on sound. Walk for a while and focus on nothing but the warmth of the sun, or, you know, so these different elements of experiencing your life, focusing the experiencing of your life for a period of time, and then maybe a little conversation about what that was for people who are sharing. What has your experience been with meditative walks and with groups?
Sorry, I also have animals here. As you can see.
Yay!
And every time we say walk, they're like, walk?
Ah!
What?
Ours will only react to the word treat, but that's good.
Yeah, no. So yes, and for me, I have a very busy brain, and so I will do like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can touch, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. Kind of that to bring me, and it's easy for me to remember. But I'll also do, sometimes I'll just go out and like when I showed in the pictures of kind of those scavenger hunts, and it was actually St. Patrick's Day, I got some news about, I told you I'm the youngest of 9 and I'm getting old. And so my eldest siblings are getting older, and a health issue with one of my siblings. And I was really worried and really panicky, and I just couldn't shake it. I just was catastrophizing and all the things. And so I went out on a green walk, and I just wanted to find all the green things I could smell, all the green things I could see. And I walked for about 4 hours. I saw green train cars going by. I saw green and I came home, and like my childlike sense came out, and I was able to really, get focused and put it to the side. So I think that sometimes people hear a meditation walk and they think there's a lot of rules. There's such power in walking a labyrinth or doing like a very a very calm meditative style walk. That's one thing. But if you have a trouble getting your busy brain to focus on that, doing kind of the scavenger hunt style or the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 walk, I think is very beneficial. Sorry, I got distracted. Did that answer what we were talking about?
Absolutely. Never thought of it in that way. And then when you got home, your green heart chakra was alive. That's right.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's really awesome. We just have to keep asking her a question or something like that. She comes up with more new fun things to do on a walk.
Right.
Right. I mean, I think that stress, we have to complete the stress cycle, I think, is what I'm hearing a lot of now from learned psychotherapists and things. Like we get like the fight, flight, freeze. We're just in a panic. So often we hear something in the news, we hear it again and again and again. And to really complete the cycle, we need to get where our feet are. We need to relax. We need to calm ourselves and comfort ourselves. And I find when I get outdoors, there's something about the perspective of the world around me that helps me get to that place much quicker and to just calm my brain. Yeah.
Well, throughout this talk, it's made me think of another walk that we were on. And that was in March of 2014. The night air show has started. So we have jets and things coming over our head. So so it was a walk across America, the Great March for Climate Action. And a group of about 35, we started out in, I think it was Long Beach, California, and March 1st. So we March 4th and ended up in Washington, D.C. November 1st when Obama was in the presidency. And Bob and Noel did not walk the whole way. We were supporting them, and we were in our RV, so we would crisscross and walk with them and demonstrate at different state capitals along the way. But there were 4 people who walked every step on that 8-month walk
Nice.
And one of them was a 74-year-old woman.
Sure.
And, you know, to this day, I mean, I just bow that, you know, she just was that committed to, you know, to Gaia, you know, to our planet, and bringing awareness. And this group, then every day they wrote a letter to Obama, President Obama, wanting to meet with him when we got to Washington.
For 8.5 months.
For 8.5 months. And so we were talking about walking for a purpose. That's, you know, another example. You know, and the Peace Pilgrim, she was just completely spirit led. I mean, she didn't have a thing on her back. I mean, we had a 35-foot RV, you know, pulled by this big pickup truck, you know, about, you know, with our own washer and dryer on board. You know? And you know, it's just, you know, it
Yeah,
just,
those great big acts like that. But I think also don't ever underestimate the walk to the corner where you say good morning to someone, or you, I don't know, I think the small actions we need to remember all add up, and they all have purpose. So
absolutely. And my in my working years, I was a speech language pathologist in rehab. And so I work primarily with head injury and stroke patients. So when you talk about that first step, you know, there's just like a buzz when somebody is, you know, releasing the bars for the first time and taking their first independent step. You know, we're all there just thrilled. So you're exactly right. And just reminded me of my, you know, whether they're recovering from a stroke or whatever, it's that intention, putting it out there, you know. And I've heard many stories from people. They were told, I'm never going to walk again. I was told I'd never walk again. And one of the greatest teachers right now, gee, I'm gonna blank on his name, but I'll think of it in just a minute. But he was told he would never walk again. And he said, nah, that's not going to happen. I'm going to heal my body and going to walk. And I see that Tracie has just a little bit of time left with us. So I'm going to button it.
Yeah,
thank you, Tracie.
I'm going to bow out. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. This was amazing, as I knew that it would be. And I will see you all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Tracie. And thank
Thank
you for introducing us to Laura. And you're welcome back any old time. We're here every Thursday.
We'll look forward to meeting you in person when we're
Yeah.
in Houston in October.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Go for a walk.
That's right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Tracie.
Have a nice walk, Tracie.
Yeah. So very good point about the, you know, the big walks and the small walks. And
Yeah. Not losing sight of that they all are important. I think the big walks, those big statements are important as well. And like, there's so many people that have made it, because the attention that it draws to the issues, right? So it's very important. Every step.
Oh,
go ahead.
one of the things that we've found about that is that in some of the things that we've been to, some protests, some are marches, some are civic action, and that the intensity of we were not at the first Women's March in Washington, D.C., but we were the second year, we were 3 women's marches in Florida the same weekend, and then Houston after that. And we've found that oftentimes there's a lot of anger in the walk as well. Now, when you walk for 8.5 months across the country, you basically create a community of those that go the whole way, or nature shifts. So there's a whole element of community and governance, of self-governments, and taking care of each other and that sort of thing. And in elements of bigger marches of purpose, like you said, there's what we have found is when you were talking earlier about being in touch with emotions and some of the good rules in your guidelines about listening to each other when you're having conversation on walks. Noelle and I just have felt, frankly, we're there for the cause, and we're feeling uncomfortable in the way it's being exercised, because people are, young people are angry about what our generation is leaving them. And so I can appreciate the anger, but we have changed all of our signs when we're on marches for purposes. We only have one sign now. So if it's women, if it's Black Lives Matter, if it's climate, what the social justice, whatever it is, we got one sign and it says march with heart.
Yeah, yeah.
So it just feels like the opportunity for us to exercise the emotion that's going on for us, but being able to also be a part of adding 4 more feet to the cause, if you will.
Right. And there's something about when you bring differing viewpoints together, it might be very uncomfortable is too small of a word, but for me to have a conversation with someone who has very different political views or values, but I can do it on a walk. There's
Right.
something about when we're in movement that, we both kind of let our guard down and I'm able to see them. And I think it's about being in nature too, rather than, across the table from
Sure.
each other. And another thing that I do here in Houston is I lead walking book clubs. I partner with a small independent bookstore, and some of the titles that we've read, we don't. Someone said, "Oh, you read while you walk? That sounds dangerous," but no.
When you're texting while you walk, that's
We read in advance and then we discuss as we walk. And so one of the titles spoke to a wrongful imprisonment of a Black man, and one of the women had come in from the suburbs. She said she's never known people of color. She's never had conversations, and so she was able to, in those conversations, and people, instead of getting angry with her, like, how can you be so racist? How can you have never had these experiences? They were able to share on this walk, and we were walking along the bayou. There's birds, there's trees, and so it's not as threatening to be able to share either our ignorance or our lived experience, right? So I think that's another way. Besides the marches where we're coming together, and the Women's March, I remember the first one feeling so empowered by all the people coming together. I thought I was alone in my ideas. It's like, oh no, I'm not alone. It really is the majority of us. But there's also power in coming together with people who have different lived experiences and different mindsets to create the shift, instead of just being always just two groups who are butting heads.
well, it's a beautiful idea. There are more and more groups and movements now, Better Angels and Living Room Conversations and others that get people that have different viewpoints of elements of our society, or in some cases you might call it politics, but having them center on what they have in common. But to your point of, it's one thing to be in the living room and have that same conversation, that living room conversation, while you're sharing a walk. It's just that's a new one for me, and it's really very exciting to think about how much more you can find in this. Thanks for that story. Yeah,
it's like it's common ground, literally, right? Like you're not on my territory, I'm not on your territory. It's common ground where we can hear hear where each other's coming from.
Right. Walking on common ground and talking about common ground. That's wonderful.
I just want to jump in here and say the doctor I was thinking about, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He has a book out called Rewired.
Oh, right.
And he was the one that was in that very serious bicycle accident, told he would never walk again. And he just said, nope, I'm going to do it. So some people that, they can't walk, like you said, maybe they can put on a video of walking, of going down a trail, or, visualizing it, can also be very, healthy, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly there's trails, even in Houston, where it's not super walkable, but there are many trails that are accessible so that someone in a wheelchair could enjoy that movement through nature. So it's not just stationary, but the closer we can get to it, the better, right? So because I don't want to assume that everyone can do that they can get to these trails. So if they can't leave their house, then to get to the window or to the porch, or in any way that they can connect with nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You guys were
Bonnie, you
talking-
put something in the chat there. Did you want to tell?
Uh,
Go ahead.
yeah, you guys have been talking about group walks, and
Mm.
that reminded me there's a new organization that has to do with their titling themselves End Child Abuse and Neglect. They have a Facebook site and a regular website, and they're organizing a walk to be in 4 cities at the same time for recognition of ending child abuse and neglect.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. I have one, thank you, Bonnie. I'm gonna look that up. I have one final question for me is, you do this as a business.
Mhm.
So how does this pay the rent? You know, I mean, I don't know how
Right.
that, the business part of it, I'm curious how that works, if that's not too nosy.
No. I don't 100% understand the Japanese concept of ikigai, but someone pointed that out to me once, like what you're good at, what the world needs, and the way to make money. When those things all come together, and I feel like this is what happened for me with Urban Pass. But so my one-on-one clients, that some of them I've been working with since I launched my business 6 years ago. I meet weekly with them for an hour. So of course that's a paid situation. The group walks, when I work in collaboration with some of the different park entities, I'm hired by them. Different nonprofits will hire me to lead group walks in their name, but then also human resources departments of small to medium-sized corporations will hire me to come in and either talk about the benefits of walking or to do what we call walk shops, bring people out, walking and talking about the benefits. I'm not shy to speak, but my very favorite way to speak is in movement. So we'll walk 5 or 10 minutes, then I talk, and then we walk, and then I talk. So I do those walk shops and breakout sessions for conferences where we actually break out of the conference and go explore the community. Both in Houston and in Austin, I've also led walks there for hotels, sometimes realtors. So there's different ways. The hard thing as an entrepreneur is locating the gigs, but I'm fortunate that therapists and physicians often refer their patients to me. So it's, I'm very grateful that it's worked out, that, at this midlife or maybe past midlife, I don't know where I am, but that it's worked out to be something where I can actually earn a living walking. And I walk, 10 to 12 miles a day. So it's usually 6 days a week. So, keeping my body flexible. I also work on that and stretching. So there's so many areas about it, but like being a healthy walker, just like when Bonnie was talking about the different ways to move your body, there's also the importance of stretching. When my clients, I talk about 4 things with them: the importance of movement, connection, either with in work or with our families, hydration and nutrition, and sleep. So, for me, because this is my business, I have to keep my upward spiral pretty high up to keep my body and keep my my wheels aligned, so to speak, so that I hope to be able to continue doing it. I turned 60 on Tracie and my birthday in January, but I hope that this is something I'd like to do it till I'm 100. We'll see, right? But at least spreading the word to other people to get out and just take the next step, take a walk, to go walk themselves, the power in it, and find the power for themselves in what that can mean to them, whether it's in the big group walks, walking for a purpose in those different organizations, all the different things. I feel like it's like the perfect, if it were to be a drug, it would be a multi-gajillion dollar drug because it's just so good for so many parts of our body. No unhealthy side effects to a walk.
No unhealthy side effects. I want to mention that you've inspired our friend Flo Bonamasso in Chicago, who we missed a chance to see on our drive up here the other day. She says, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, walk. I will do that tomorrow!
Yay!
Exclamation. Thanks for so many great ideas.
Awesome. Awesome.
So, Flo, when we pass through Chicago on our way back, maybe if you don't have time, if you're with the grandkids, we'll all go for a walk with the grandkids.
Yeah, go walk along the lake or walk in any of the wonderful neighborhoods. I grew up an hour outside of Chicago, so I'm familiar with
Ah, very good.
fabulous neighborhoods. Look for the interesting things. Let your inner child go and explore. You know, look for the little unique things on your walk, things that make you smile.
It's been
Okay,
delightful.
one last question.
You said that before.
I know, I'm a liar. Favorite shoes?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's really an individual thing. So I wear New Balance. So my shoes aren't right here, but I like a cushiony shoe. I have flat feet. So everyone should be fitted. Here in Houston, we're lucky. We have a good running shoe store where you can go in and like a knowledgeable person can look at your feet and see what works best for you. But it's whatever's most comfortable, right? And always making sure you have extra room. So at least a half size bigger than you would normally wear in another shoe, because our feet kind of swell as we're walking. Give your toes wiggle room. But yeah, don't just go trial and error, because sore feet, plantar fasciitis, all these other, bruised heels, things that happen when people don't have the right shoes is just no good. Go and be fitted by someone at either a running shoe store or a specialty walking store, so that you get the right shoe. Yeah,
Good,
really.
good advice. It may be more expensive, but it really isn't if you go through 3 pairs of shoes being uncomfortable. Yeah.
I go through a new pair of shoes every 3 months, because it just they it's like tires, right? You have to keep them good, even if they still look good. The inner padding gets pushed down. So it is not always the most expensive shoe either. There's some really snazzy looking shoes out there that aren't necessarily the best shoes for you. So yeah, don't be sold on price alone, for sure.
Price or looks, but rather,
How they feel, comfort. Yeah.
Right. Well, let's go shopping, Bob.
All
I
right.
know my shoes don't
They were on
are
different
due
criteria.
for a change.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
this has been so
Great
wonderful,
conversation.
Laura. This has been a delightful
Great.
conversation.
I'm so glad.
Yes, I have to say this. Sometimes I go like, I get disappointed that more people didn't show up, but we will post this on our co-creatorsconvergence.com, and we'll highly recommend it. We look forward to meeting you when we come to Houston.
Take a walk together, absolutely. And
Yeah.
the people who needed to be here are here. And if if a few people watch it after recorded, that's all good. But
Yeah, a lot of ours pick it up. Yeah, it's not exactly in our typical spiritual mode, but I think it's very spiritual.
Indeed it is.
It's out there communing with nature and being a part of really what we are.
absolutely. And I think it's the very best way to dial in. Sometimes, like, I don't have all the words necessarily, but I do talk to my inner guides. I do talk to angels when I walk, all of the things. I think sometimes people get hung up and they read a book and they think they have all the spiritual words in front of them, but they don't really feel it. And so a walk, you don't have to know why it feels good, and you don't need to necessarily know who you're communing with, just so you feel it, right? I mean, yeah.
I get cranky if we go too many days without our walk.
It's
If
true.
we get really busy or, with this travel thing, we're out of pocket where we are, and we'll get some walks in, not as big a walk, but I definitely do get a little cranky. You don't want that cranky. So, well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for spending the evening with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It was wonderful.
Great.
Take good
Great.
care and go take a walk, everyone. Great.
See you next Thursday, everyone. Come and join us again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a
Thank
great evening,
you.
everyone. Join us next week, August 5th, when our conversationalist will be Kimberly Clark Sharp, and she will be discussing a near-death life preview, the Emerald City and the Shoe on the Ledge. See you then.